Hello, I'm Nigel Lythgoe, and this is The Enemy Within, a unique quiz show because one of our 5 contestants has been given all the answers. That person is the enemy. But who is it? Well, that's up to the other 4 to decide. Otherwise, they will lose everything that they win today. Let's meet them. James Regan from Cardiff, Jill Taylor from Essex, Saeed Khan from Birmingham, Tracy Brown from Newcastle upon Tyne, and Carl Gardner from Warrington. We've never met each other before now. All we know is that one of you is a cheat. Check each other out. Like your fellow contestants, I don't know which of you is that cheat. All I know is that you have the advantage. You have the answers. And you will have everyone's money unless you're discovered by the end of the show. So let's meet our first enemy suspect. James Regan, you're a credit controller. We asked you, what do you think about people who cheat?
As long as they can justify their actions, the reason why they've cheated, to protect themselves and other people, then I think it's fine. If anyone was to cheat on me, as long as they don't cause me any major harm, then I think that would be okay.
Well, James, the enemy today can justify their actions. They will walk off with everyone's winnings. James Regan, are you the enemy?
No, I'm not the enemy within.
Then I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Each one of them is worth £25. If you don't know the answer or answer incorrectly, I will throw it open for a bonus. Let's start round 1. Which author's work includes First Amongst Equals and Cain and Abel?
I don't know.
Throwing it open. Tracy?
Jeffrey Archer.
Correct. Flemings are natives of which country, James?
New Zealand.
Throwing it open. Saeed?
Belgium.
Correct. Did you not know that, James?
No, I didn't.
Or were you just not giving us the correct answer on purpose? Pop star Shakira is from which South American country?
Cuba.
Throwing it open. Saeed?
Colombia.
Correct. Was that a guess, or did you know?
No, I know that.
Well, James, you didn't. In fact, you didn't know any of the first 3 answers. I wonder if that's a smokescreen. You're trying to put us off the scent. Let's move to our second enemy suspect. Jill Taylor, a foreign language teacher. Let's see what you said when we asked you, do you have strong views on cheating?
Well, quite strong, because I don't understand people who cheat when they're playing games and sports, because I'm not competitive, so it seems not like a real victory if you have to cheat to do it. But in general, I suppose we all cheat a little bit in life, and as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, it's not too bad.
Well, it'll seem like a real victory today if the enemy walks away with your money, and of course the enemy has to cheat in order to not be discovered. Jill Taylor, are you the enemy?
No, I'm not.
Your 3 questions. The Space Family Robinson featured in which 60s TV series?
Don't know.
Throwing it open. Saeed?
Lost in Space.
Correct. You're doing very well at jumping in with these answers, Saeed. What is the square root of 16, Jill?
4.
Correct. Which songstress had a 2002 UK hit single with Murder on the Dance Floor?
Sophie Ellis Bextor.
Correct. You enjoy a bit of amateur dramatics yourself, Jill, don't you?
Well, I used to.
Yeah. I wonder what role you'll be playing today, the detective or the enemy. Let's move to our third enemy suspect, Saeed Khan, a government officer. We asked you, do cheats ever prosper?
I don't think so, because in the long run there's a certain karmic destiny which befalls us all. And I think I've seen certain cheats, too many in fact, come to a very sticky end as a result of their cheating.
Well, I wonder if your karmic destiny will be to go home with nothing today.
I hope not.
Saeed Khan, are you the enemy?
No, I'm absolutely not the enemy within.
Your 3 questions. With which instrument would you associate Stefan Grappelli?
Violin.
Correct. Foolscap and A4 are sizes of what?
Paper.
Correct. Who does Johnny Briggs play in Coronation Street?
Mike Baldwin.
Correct. All 3 right. And you've jumped in on other people's questions as well. Saeed, you're doing very, very well.
Thank you.
Let's move to our fourth enemy suspect, Tracy Brown, a full-time mum. We asked you, have you ever cheated on a relative?
Yes, I have. I crashed my car when I was younger and told my husband that it had broken down and that the repair van had taken it away. And he was then faced with a bill for the repairs because the front wing of the car was all smashed in, but he doesn't know. He thought it was just broken down.
Tracy, is that the first time you've admitted that fact?
Sorry.
I wonder if I can get you to admit another fact. Tracy Brown, are you the enemy?
No, I'm not.
Your three questions. Which Duran Duran hit of 1982 shares its name with a South American city?
Rio. Oh.
Correct. Which author is the father of Weird Weekend's Louis Theroux? Throwing it open, Jill.
All through.
Correct. Who became the best-known conspirator of the gunpowder plot?
Guy Fawkes.
Correct. 2 out of your 3 there, Tracy. Let's move to our final enemy suspect. Carl Gardner is a typesetting designer, and we asked him, is cheating acceptable to you?
It is. I think it's a handy interpersonal skill to have, and I think there's a time and place for it. I think the last time it was invaluable to me was when I was at school at exam time, but of course there is a minimum amount of space on the shirt sleeves for those hidden answers.
Well, you've had plenty of time to learn the answers if you've been given the questions today. And you've already admitted to cheating. Carl Gardner, are you the enemy?
No, Nigel, I can quite honestly say I'm not.
Let's see how you get on with your 3 questions. Each one is worth £25. To members of which organisation does the slang term dibble refer? Throwing it open. Tracy.
Police force?
Correct. What was the name of the flower girl in George Bernard Shaw's play Pygmalion?
Eliza Doolittle.
Correct. You took a long time to answer me, and you're a trivia buff.
Just had to drag it from some dark region down there.
Really? Or you were acting. In which 2002 Disney film did John Goodman and Billy Crystal provide the voices of Sully and Mike?
Monsters, Inc.
Correct. It's the end of that round, and I'm not going to reveal your running totals at this point. Only our viewers at home can see them. All I will tell you is that Saeed is currently the leader. Is that because he's clever and knows the answers, or is it because he's cheating and he's read the answers? You must decide, as must our viewers at home if you want to join in. The telephone lines will be open at the end of the next round, and if you think you know who the enemy is, then you can give us a call. I have now asked all 5 of you if you are the enemy. All 5 have said no. Consequently, we don't just have a cheat here now, we have a liar. If you didn't pick up any clues in round 1, you really are going to have to concentrate in round 2, which is a buzzer round. Anybody can buzz in. The questions are worth £50. First to buzz in gets the question. If you answer incorrectly, I'll throw it open once for a bonus. A word of warning here. Don't get lost in the game. You're going to have to focus to flush out the faker in round 2. Which queen of crime also wrote under the pen name Mary Saeed?
Dame Agatha Christie.
So you knew that Mary Westmacott was Dame Agatha Christie?
I know she wrote historical novels under a pseudonym. I wasn't quite sure whether it was Westmacott. But,
It was Westmacott,
yeah.
but you got it right. I wonder if that was because I'd said queen of crime beforehand. A clock set at 4:30 features on the diary page of which newspaper? Carl.
The Times.
Correct. Which famous motorcycle race takes place each June on the Isle of Man? Jill.
TT races.
Correct. Jerusalem and Globe are... Saeed.
Artichoke.
Correct. In which ocean is the island of Tristan da Cunha? Saeed.
The Atlantic.
Correct. Which film told the story of Nick Leeson? Carl.
Rogue Trader.
Correct. What do Molly Malone and Dog and Bone mean in... Jill.
Fun.
In Cockney rhyming slang, telephone is correct. Which Inspector Wexford novelist also writes... Carl.
Would that be Ruth Rendell?
Correct. I was going to say writes under the pen name of Barbara Vine. Which general made his last stand at the battle? Sorry?
General Custer.
Correct. How often is the national census held in Great Britain, Carl?
10 years, Nigel.
Correct. Well, that's the end of that round, a very interesting round. I'm still not going to tell you your individual scores. All I can tell you is that Saeed is our current leader. But does that mean he's today's enemy? We're now at the halfway stage. Let's start pointing the finger at who we believe might be today's enemy. James, who do you suspect and why?
I think it's Saeed. He's been very, very quiet and obviously getting a lot of questions right.
Getting a lot of questions right. Is that through brains, though, or through cheating?
I don't know. He's jumped in on a few ones pretty early, so I think he's already seen the answers.
Well, you're going to have to know at the end of the game. A lot rests on it, James.
Sure.
Jill, who's the enemy and why?
I'm torn between Carl and Saeed. I don't know whether Saeed's just very clever or playing a double bluff.
Saeed will tell you it's because he's very clever, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm tossing up, but I think it's probably him, actually.
Right. Saeed, two fingers pointed at you already, but who do you think the enemy is and why?
I have to say I think it's Tracy, because she's remained inscrutable throughout. There was one that she bluffed on, I think, in the individual round, and that's what leads me to suspect it's her.
Right. Tracy, inscrutable. Who do you think the enemy is and why?
I think it might be Jill, because she's got an amateur dramatic background, so she might be acting.
I'm sure whoever the enemy is today is going to have to act anyway, Tracy. Maybe her experience will assist her. Carl,
Nigel.
the finger's been pointed at you, but who do you think the enemy is?
I think I'd tend to go with the multitude so far. Saeed's looking very, very quick. Too quick for his own good, almost.
Well, how are you doing at home? Have you spotted something that our contestants may have missed? Do you know who today's enemy is? If you do, then give us a call. If you think it's James, then call 0901 383 4141. If you think it's Jill, then call 0901 383 4142. If you think it's Saeed, then call 0901 383 4143. If you think it's Tracy, then call 0901 383 4144. And if you think it's Carl, then call 0901 383 4145. 5 randomly selected winners will each receive £200. The lines will be open until the end of our final round, and calls cost 25 pence. We'll now move on to round 3. I'm going to ask each of you 3 questions, each worth £75 on a specific subject. Your problem is you haven't chosen that specific subject, so it's quite possible that you won't know the answers. That is, of course, unless you've been given the answers. Time is running out, so let's play round 3. James, your specialist subject is dance. Do you dance much, James?
Only on a Saturday night.
Marie Rambert and Margot Fontaine were associated with which form of dance?
Tango.
Throwing it open.
Ballet, I
Oh,
believe, Nigel.
I believe you're right. What a simple question, James.
I'm not doing very well.
No, you're not. Your second question. Who creates the steps or routines used by dancers?
Choreographer.
Correct. Which dance craze of the 50s and 60s was popularized by Chubby Checker?
Swing.
Throwing it open.
The twist.
The twist, Saeed, is right. You obviously don't do the twist on a Saturday night then, James.
No, before my time.
Let's move to you, Jill. Your specialist subject is 1984, and that's the novel 1984. Who wrote 1984?
George Orwell.
Correct. What is the name of the hero of the novel?
Winston Smith.
Correct. Which number room did Winston most fear?
101.
Room 101. All 3 right. You've read the book.
I did it for A-level.
Saeed, your specialist subject, and you appear to be good at everything, is London Underground. Which line is the newest addition to the London Underground?
Jubilee.
Correct. Which airport is served by the Piccadilly line?
Heathrow.
Correct. On the Underground map, what colour is the central line?
Green.
Jill, very
Red.
quick in there. Red is correct. Only one wrong there, Saeed. Tracy, your specialist subject is Friends, the television show. Do you watch it?
Yeah.
In real life, which Friends actress is Mrs. Brad Pitt?
Jennifer Aniston.
Correct. What is the name of the coffee bar where the friends meet? Throwing it open, Saeed.
Central Perk.
Correct. Do you watch it as well?
I do, I love it.
Right. Tracy, I'm surprised you didn't get that.
Blank. Complete blank.
Every show they're there. Which Magnum PI star guested on the show as Monica's boyfriend, Richard?
Tom Selleck.
Correct. Carl, your specialist subject is revolutionaries.
Thanks, Nige.
My name is Nigel, by the way.
Sorry. I sit corrected.
I promise I won't call you Carl if you don't call me Nige.
Consider it done.
Which Italian revolutionary shares his name with a biscuit?
I've no idea.
Throwing it open, Saeed.
Garibaldi.
Correct. Lenin was one of the leaders of which country's revolution?
Russia.
Correct. Highgate Cemetery is the resting place of which German revolutionary?
Karl Marx. Been there.
Correct. It's the end of that round, and for the first time, I can now reveal your cash totals. And for our viewers at home, a reminder of those telephone lines to give us a call on. They will be open until the end of the final round. James, you have £75. Tracy, you have £250. Jill, you have £475. Carl, you have £475. Saeed, you have £725, so Saeed is our current leader. Is that because he's the cleverest, or is that because he's a cheat? Let's take a moment's pause in order to look at your past history here. James, you were actually born in South Africa.
That's correct.
So it's quite possible that you mightn't know half of the questions that I've been asking you. At the same time, I know that you're a liar because when you arrived from South Africa, you spoke about pink elephants and killer giraffes. And we know that you lie as well in order to get yourself promoted and get yourself extra bonuses because you tell your work that there are a lot of job offers coming in.
That's true.
So James is a liar, but is he today's enemy? Jill, on a long-haul flight, you actually lied that both of your children were asthmatics in order to get upgraded. Your children aren't asthmatics, are they, Jill?
They're a bit wheezy when they were younger.
Jill, were your children asthmatics?
No, Nigel.
Saeed, you've been exceptionally clever so far, or have you? Maybe this is a double bluff, so that everybody thinks the enemy wouldn't come forward with all of the answers as you're doing.
Maybe.
Maybe it's just because you're clever.
Maybe.
You were certainly clever enough in school when you didn't want to go on the long-distance runs to take the shortcut, Saeed, in order to have a crafty cigarette. Tracy Brown. Most of the stories I've heard about you, I cannot relate because they always refer to you being drunk. Carl. Looking a bit like Ming the Merciless.
It won't be the first time I've been called that, Nigel.
I'm sure it won't. When your father's car broke down and he went under the bonnet to fix it, you slid across and honked the horn so violently that he banged his head on the bonnet. Is this a childish prank or is it a cruel streak in Carl? Well, hopefully that's given you an insight into your fellow contestants' characters in order for you to build up a profile of your enemy. We'll now move on to our final round, and it's a chance for you all to dramatically increase your totals. The first question is worth £100. If you answer it correctly, then the next question will go up by £25. But the questions will not be offered across. In a moment, I'm going to ask you the most vitally important question of the day: who is the enemy? You must give me your answer at the end of this, our final round. For £100, which novelists use the pen name Acton, Currer and Carl?
Bronte sisters.
Correct. For £125 on TV, Patsy Kensit and Kate Winslet have been patients in which casual... Jill.
Holby City.
Correct. Holby General. £150, which comic strip hero was known as Lord Greystoke? Carl.
Tarzan of the Apes.
Correct. £175, the 90s hits of which Britpop band include Country House and Beat... Saeed.
Blur.
Correct. £200, who played Chuck Noland in Castaway? Jill.
Tom Hanks.
Correct. £225, in the famous John Betjeman poem, what is the first name of Miss Hunter Dunn? Jill.
Joan.
Correct. £250, what is the alternative name for the insect Daddy Longlegs? Carl.
Crane fly.
Correct. £275, in which British city is Strangeways Prison? Carl.
Manchester.
Correct. For £300, which breed of dog is used as a symbol of Great Britain? Saeed.
Bulldog.
Correct. £325, what name is given to the clarified butter? Carl.
Would it be ghee?
It would be ghee. Well, that's the end of the questions, and our phone lines are now closed. Here are your final cash totals. James, you have £75. Tracy, you have £250. Jill, you have £1,025. Saeed, you have £1,200. Carl, you have £1,575, which makes you, Carl, today's winner. However, that could be the closest any of you get to that money. It can still be stolen from you because the enemy is still within. In a moment, I'll be asking you to nominate who you think is the cheat. And you must agree by a majority. If you give me a split decision, then the audience's vote will be decisive, whether you agree with it or not. It's now time for that audience vote. So, audience, who is the enemy? Well, at this stage, our audience's vote will only be seen by our viewers at home. You need to take into account now all the clues that you've picked up in order to keep your money. Remember, it was Saeed out in the front to start with, but certainly when required, Jill and Carl came back to build their money up. Tracy and James still hiding in the shadows. You must get this right so that you don't go home with nothing. James, who is the enemy?
Jill.
Jill, who is the enemy?
Carl.
Saeed, who is the enemy?
Carl.
Tracy, who is the enemy?
Jill.
Carl, who is the enemy?
Jill.
Well, on a 3-2 split, 3 of the fingers are pointing at you, Jill. But are they right? Will the real enemy stand up? Well done, Carl. You outwitted 2 of your opponents today. Please sit down. Of course, Jill and Saeed thought it was you, but you added your vote to Tracy and James and framed Jill.
Very fortunate at the end.
Very fortunate. I've got to say that the audience nominated you as their enemy. Was there any point in the competition where you thought you'd given yourself away?
Hopefully not, no, because the fingers were pointing at Saeed most of the time.
They were. I felt you were very, very quiet in your round. And then all of a sudden at the end there, you really did put your money up. James, you didn't spot Carl?
No, obviously the side was doing so well at the beginning, and then I picked up on something with Jill, so I just went with that. But Carl totally outfoxed me.
You certainly did, as most of the questions did today, James.
Well, yeah, unfortunately.
Jill, unfortunately for you, you did very well with the questions. You got yourself £1,025, but you've had to give it to Carl, even though you thought he was the enemy.
That's all right. I didn't really have it in the first place, did I?
Why did you think he was the enemy at the end of the day?
It's just the way he played it. He just came up at the end too much. I mean, I know I did, but he just knew things that he shouldn't have known.
Saeed, what gave him away to you?
Well, it was the last round, really. He gave himself away in spades because he was anticipating thick and fast, and I'm the master of anticipation. Nobody goes faster than me, so he could only have been the enemy.
Wow. I'm afraid your karmic destiny is to go home with nothing today. Tracy, it was your vote, really, that helped Carl. You voted for Jill. Carl wasn't going to vote for himself. He could immediately throw it to Jill. Why did you think Jill?
It was between them both at the end. They were both equal. I thought it could be Jill, it could be Carl, and I just went with my original instinct, to my detriment.
And to your fellow contestants' detriment. Did Carl not give anything away to you?
Well, they both did, though. I mean, it was difficult to decide between the two. They both came up at the end, and they were both anticipating questions at the end as well.
Right. Well, I'm afraid the four of you go home with what you deserve today because the enemy wasn't spotted, and that is absolutely nothing. Carl, for doing what you've done today and outwitting the majority of the contestants, you get what you richly deserve, which is all their money. And that adds up to £4,125. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for now. Today's cheat Carl beat his fellow contestants. However, he didn't beat the audience, and I hope 5 of you spotted him out there and each pick up £200. See you next time, and remember, keep your friends close, keep your enemies even closer.